Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So, today we've got a ton of exciting stuff. Our benevolent overlords over at Para-Bellum-Games have sent me an absolutely massive pile of Yoroni goodness. So, as I'm filming this right now, it is the Monday before the official release. The wave one of the Yoroni products drop this Friday, and I've got everything to share with you guys and show you what's in the box. So we've got the Daimyo, which this is a dual character, I believe. We've got the Oni Ayakashi we're going to be looking at today. We've also got the Oni Ayakashi. And lastly, we've got the Tengu Bushi, which this is also a double kit. So before we crack these open and hop down to the hobby desk, if you're new to Conquest, make sure that if you're looking to make your first purchases, we have an affiliate code. I'll pop that on the screen somewhere. Just pop in that code at checkout. You'll save 10% off of your first purchase with the Para-Bellum web store. And we get a little bit of a kickback from that, no cost to you, which really goes a long way and helps support the channel. Otherwise, if you're a longtime viewer, maybe you've already used the code or you stumbled on this video, help me out. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Help push my content out to more people, and I would greatly appreciate that. But without further ado, let's actually start cracking these boxes. All right, so since we're looking at so many kits, I'm going to go a little bit quickly and throw all of the frames and the instructions up on the screen. I'm not going to spend as much time going into detail, frame by frame like I normally do for an unboxing, because I want to keep the video down, but then I also want to be able to show you guys off what the miniatures look like once they're built. So we're starting out with the Daimyo slash Oyabun box. Just one small sheet of instructions. Very, very simple. We've got our cards for the various martial art, sort of styles that you can use in the army, which is cool. And then it's really just one Para-Bellum frame that they cut to fit into a smaller box. So looking at the frames, these all look very, very nice. The Daimyo is sort of unsheathing his sword, and he has this elaborate scabbard. And then the Oyabun has this giant battle mace. Alright, let's crack open the next box. Actually, before we crack open the next box, in case you haven't been following the Yoroni, so instead of having normal activation cards, these little like martial art cards, these are your activation cards. So if you were, say, to draw a chi unit from the top of your command stack, you can activate any chi unit from your force. So these cards effectively replace your activation cards that you would normally get with Conquest product. Really, really cool artwork on these. The Japanese theming really, really comes through. All right, so that's the Daimyo done. Let's move on to the next. All right, so next up we have our Tengu units. And I was kind of hoping that even though it's a dual unit box, so you get the Tengu Bushi, or you can build them as the Ayakashi. Unfortunately, whichever way you go, you get 3 models in the box, and 2 of them, so if you decide to go with the Bushi variant, which is going to be your A column, you're not really getting any alternate poses. So for 2 of them, they're just going to be static, mono pose miniatures, which the artwork and everything looks absolutely fantastic. My main concern here is just that because it's an army of brutes, and you're going to probably have quite a bit of these kits in your force, having some variation between them would have been nice, but because it's already a dual kit, I'm assuming, it's kind of hard to cram all of those variations onto the sprue. So you're going to get two that are completely static, and then your third guy can either be built as sort of a normal grunt or as a troop leader. And that's for both the Ayakashi and the Bushi. So you do have that little bit of variation in there. But even like the Bushi leader and the Bushi troop that you build out of that base body, they look somewhat similar. The arms are in a slightly different pose and they do have different heads, but they are very, very similar. With that said, though, I'll show you guys the sprues. So this is the first sprue, and just at a glance, the swords all look to be a reasonable thickness. Nothing looks like it was damaged. The bows have some good flex to them. The texture detail looks absolutely amazing. And here's the other frame that has most of your body bits on there. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next kit. All right, so next up we have the Oni Ayakashi. So we do get a little bit of customization in here. So on pose 1, you can build it as a leader or a troop, and there's nothing really stopping you from mixing and matching the arms and heads there for that pose. So that gives you a little bit of variability. Now for pose 2, it looks like the only real swap here is for that pose's head. But on pose 3, we've actually got 2 sets of arms. So again, that can give you a little bit more variability in your posing options for these guys. So let's go ahead and take a look at the sprues. 2 in here. Again, these details are looking really, really nice. And our second sprue for them, which are going to be mostly the torsos, it looks like. All right, and let's move on to our last unit box. All right, and lastly, we have the Kami Ayakashi. So here we've got a little bit of posability options. So for pose 1, you can build either a leader or a troop, and they're going to have different arms as well as different head. So you can do a little bit of mixing and matching with that pose to get some unique looking figures. For pose 2, it looks like we get a different mask as well as a different right arm. So a little bit of posability there. And then lastly on pose 3, this guy is just static. Doesn't look like there's any build options for him. But I really like the look of this unit. The sumo wrestler demon is pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen that before. All right, so I'm going to go away, do a little movie magic, build these, and then I'll show you what the finished builds look like. All right, so here are the assembled miniatures. First up, we've got our Tengu. Now, I built 2 of the Bushi sculpts and then 1 of the archers. It's the archer leader. Now, these little sort of bits are really optional, and they were a little finicky while the glue was drying to kind of get them in place. The connection point there wasn't really all that great, but once your glue is dry, they're pretty sturdy there. You'd similarly, since there's only 1 connection point to the base, when you put your plastic glue on there, you'll kind of need to pinch it and hold it until that glue starts to set, so that the weight of the miniature doesn't really tip it over. And then these little bits on the back, so like this jug, again, the connection point is kind of awkward. So again, you might need to kind of pinch it and hold it while you're putting that glue on. Now, all of the heads are different ways you can configure them. They've got feathers sort of on the back. You can have those like standing up or laid down. There's different hats that you can put on them, which are really, really cool. All in all, I really like these sculpts. Honestly, they're probably my favorite out of all of the sets that we're looking at today. And then here is our archer leader. And again, similar situation, the arrows were a little bit easier. The recommended positioning kind of looked weird. And there was this little bit, like a leather harness, the straps that would connect it were just kind of like free floating. So I just snipped those off. We can imagine it's, got the connections underneath, and then repositioned it so that while the leader was reaching for an arrow, it actually looked appropriate. So a little bit of extra modeling work needed, but nothing too bad to get a pose that looked really, really good. All right, so let's move on to the next unit. All right, so next up we've got our Oni, and overall these weren't bad to assemble. There are some mold lines that you'll need to clean up. Some of the accessories, however, not on all of the sculpts, but some of the accessories, again, you had that slight difficulty in getting them placed somewhere that looked good. They're not really keyed, and I really wish they were. Like, if they just had a nice little socket that you could stick them into. But again, nothing that you won't be able to overcome with a little plastic glue. And then we've got this guy. Now, this guy was the exception. His little skulls down here actually were keyed, and it was very, very simple. They just slotted right into place. And again, all of those accessories are optional. You don't have to put them on, but they're there to help you differentiate your miniatures and help make them look a little bit different, since again, this is an army of brutes, so you're going to have multiple of these kits when you're making your full army. And then our last pose here, these skulls were keyed too. This wasn't, but because it had a nice large flat surface, it was easy enough to glue down. Not much variability in the way of posing outside of what we covered in the instruction booklet. So these guys, if you're building multiple of them, you have some options, some limited options, but these are going to be relatively static. All right, and let's move on to the Kami. So with these guys, they actually surprised me. There was a lot more modularity in the kit than what the instructions actually kind of led you to believe initially. So all of the masks that go on the various heads, they appeared to be keyed the exact same. So you get lots of options for the masks that you can make the faces of the miniatures all look different. And then the shoulders and the wrist sockets on all of the miniatures are ball joints. Now, there is a little bit of molding, like right where the arm connects, sort of around the ball socket. But because they're on ball sockets, you could potentially swap any of the arms to any of the bodies, and then you may need like a little green stuff or putty to fill in any small gaps that might be there. But you can swap all of the hand weapons, and again swap the arms to the different bodies. However, the recommended poses actually look pretty good. This guy is definitely giving off sumo vibes. And then we've got this gent. Again, really, really crisp, detailed. There are, however, just some mold lines that will need to be cleaned up, like here at the back of the arms. But because of the nice big sweeping curves on a lot of the miniature, cleaning up those mold lines is going to be a piece of cake. And this kit, they did have some accessories, but not that many. So for instance, like this little rope bit, I added on, but you could leave that off, and that rope is fully detailed the whole way around his waist. Just another way you can add just a little bit of flair to these miniatures. And last but not least, let's look at the Daimyo. Here we've got the Daimyo. Very, very easy to put together. Honestly, if I had to rate everything from least difficult to most difficult, the Tengu were by far the easiest. Their bodies are mostly just two pieces. The arms are all single piece. The heads were two pieces. Then I'd probably say the Daimyo was the next easiest, on par with the Oni, about the same number of pieces. The Kami, the sumo guys, they were a ton of parts. So each arm is two pieces. Then you've got the wrists, and then for some of the sculpts, the hand actually it sockets into the weapon, so that's another piece. So there were a lot of pieces there. However, everything went together pretty much the way you expect it. The instructions were pretty good. There was one small typo with the Bushi leader where a couple of pieces were misnumbered, but they're clearly detailed on the instruction sheet, and it was easy to figure out that mistake. But overall, I am very, very pleased with these miniatures. They all look absolutely fantastic. And so, just in case anyone was wondering, now these are the exact same contents with the two-player Wadroon versus Yoroni starter set that the Yoroni player would get. And so I went into the app and added up all of the points. So without upgrades, just the base cost of the models themselves, this is about 820 points. So you can imagine if you were to pick up the Yoroni First Blood starter, as well as get yourself half of that Yoroni two-player starter set versus the Wadroon. If you've got a buddy you can split that with, that will actually get you fairly close to that 2,000 point limit. You might want to, add one more unit box to help you hit that threshold. So there's actually a lot of really great value in those starter sets, with this being a brute army and all of your units kind of costing more points. But that's really all I've got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this unboxing and build video. Let me know what you think of the Yoroni down in the comments. You can look forward to some painting videos for these lovely miniatures coming up pretty quickly. Oh, one other thing. So don't forget about our affiliate code. So if you're new to the game and you're looking at starting with a low model count, hyper elite army, this is going to be the perfect army for you guys. And I want you to save some money. So go to the Para-Bellum web store, pop in our affiliate code JTS Wargaming at checkout, save yourself 10% on your new miniatures. But other than that, I am going to sign off. I will see you all in the next video.